Hey guys, so let's take a look at how to bring up the Docker environment. So once you get access to our GitHub repo, you'll be able to see that we have the main repository that connects the whole system together. And that repo is called Outreach Vagrant. So when you get access to our repository, you want to go to this guy. Now, at that point, you're going to want to clone this repo. So easy way, just click the clone or download tab and select with SSH. You'll need SSH keys installed, but at that point, just the basic Git documentation build to show you how to generate SSH keys. So download that, right, by going to SourceTree, which is what our developers use here to manage their applications. And at that point, you would just click plus, clone, and paste in the URL, right? And then the path where you want it to go and get downloaded to. And SourceTree will manage Git for you. That way it's easier to see the changes that have been done. Once that's done, you're going to want to click Git Flow, which at that point will set up the develop and master branches for you. At this point, you're going to want to run the setup script. So how do you get to that? Well, once you go back here, you're going to want to go to where you've installed your repository. So for me, all my repositories are in one main folder, /repos. So let's go into there. And then I see all my repositories. I want to go into Outreach Vagrant. I want to go into Docker. At that point, what I want to do is I want to bring up the environment. So how do I see that? I type in ls, and you see setup.sh. To do that, you just type in sh setup.sh -d-r. What do those two mean? Well, -d means rebuild a database, and -r means rebuild the server. So if you don't pass in those parameters, it just won't rebuild it. So it'll keep the current code that you have on disk. If you do rebuild it, it'll go and fetch the latest code for you and rebuild your environment with those latest code changes. That's also assuming that locally you've pull the latest developed changes inside of Outreach Vagrant, which is where the database is stored. So as this is being built, I'll kind of give you the folder structure as how the whole thing works. So for me right now, I want to rebuild the database and the server, right? So -d-r. If I just do -d, it just rebuilds the database. If I just do -r, it just rebuilds the Sling server. So -d-r. At that point, hit enter and watch the server rebuild itself. Now, we let it go. At this point, I'm just going to show you the folder structure for the current repository. See here, there's 4 folders: assets, Docker, legacy, and software. Assets is where the database is stored. Docker is for the environment. Software is the actual Sling server itself, where you can go and build it. And legacy is the V1 applications. No one really touches legacy per se, but software, Docker, and assets get used all the time. I'm just going to close this and see where we're at. So the build is still going. I'm going to pause the video for now. I'm going to come back. At that point, we can kind of look at how the remaining process looks like. All right. Alrighty, so I figured this would be a good point to start the video again. So at this point, you'll see that the server ran 2 unit tests, which means essentially testing to make sure that the server can actually come up correctly. If this sees any failures, so other than 0 here, that's not a good thing, but the build will fail. So at that point, you'll know something's wrong. This next section here, though, is actually the dependency analyzer. So it'll actually read through all the dependencies inside the project, scan them, and look for any potential malicious code or whatnot. And essentially, it'll prevent the build from happening. It'll actually stop the server from building. It's useful, especially in large projects like this, where you're dependent on external libraries to build the app. At this point here, we're just kind of finishing off the dependency check. It takes a bit of time, especially the first time you run it. It has no previous knowledge, so it has to pull a lot of information. And then at that point, you just gotta be patient with it. The documentation for that does say it could take up to 20 minutes the first time. Now you see here build success. So the server is officially built. Now here comes Docker. The first whole step you just saw there, that was actually just Maven building the whole application. As I said before, if you don't have Maven installed, take a look at the README for Outreach Vagrant, which is just right below here. And there's steps down there on how to set up Maven on your local computer. So I would strongly recommend to read through that and make sure that the server can build correctly. At this point now, we'll see that Docker has stopped any previous images, and now it's actually starting to build the Sling image. So in the world of Docker, an image is a picture of an instance. It's not running. It's essentially just a snapshot. A container is a running image, just to have that distinction between the two of those. So it's going through, it's pulling down everything it needs now to build the environment. And at this point, you can kind of see it said, oh, I'm building Postgres. Here I go. Now it's going to create the database, and that's done, and it's going to create Sling. Cool. So now we have two environments talking to each other that are both Dockerized. So how do you know if it built correctly? A couple like sanity checks you need to do. So Docker PS just tells you, FYI, you have two containers. So that's two running images, and they've been up for 14 seconds and 15 seconds. The database takes maybe about a minute, 2 minutes to run, or to set up, really. Reason being, there's like 30,000 lines of SQL, so that's a lot. Give it a minute. So if you run Docker PS again, we'll see it's been created 30 seconds ago. Status up 1 second. Interesting. Let's take a look again. Just take a look at this here, and just keep refreshing it. Just want to make sure it's actually up and going. So wait a few more just to make sure. All right, let's take a look here. So to test to make sure that the server's up, just open up your browser and go to localhost port 8080 system console. Hit enter, navigate to that page. If it asks you to log in, its username is admin, password is admin. That's for our dev environment. And you see here, you can just refresh the status. And you see everything's active because there's no triangle. If you see a triangle like this, that means it's not active. You want everything to be active. Lastly, just open up our database software, dbbeaver, handy dandy database interface. Right, so it's an open source software. You want to download the community edition. You don't want to download the enterprise edition. That was not free. All the README Beaver to the database. So let's just take a quick look here. Let's just close this off. And if I go here, and you see, there's my database. I go public, tables, and there they all are. Don't be intimidated. I think we all are intimidated here by this, but don't be. We work through case by case. All right, hopefully this has been helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.